I got one last question on your way out the door, and that's this. Simply, would you make this call?
That's a good one.
Would you make this call?
The Niners.
This isn't 35 million a year. This isn't Trey Hendrickson where you need Bosa money. You know, we have one Bosa. Now we're paying two Bosas. Yeah. Obviously, I'd rather have Trey Hendrickson. He's got 35 sacks the last 2 years. But Trey Hendrickson, you can't afford. But you can afford this guy. Yep. And this guy, I think, is a really good football player. And Dane Brugler, who I had on right before the draft, loved Shemar Stewart. And I know a lot of Niner fans think they know him because they looked at his sack totals and saw that he didn't have a lot, and suddenly they're Shemar Stewart experts. And I got people coming out of the woodwork telling me, he sucks. But the thing is, you're talking to a guy who is a Texas A&M fan. So I watch A&M football every week, and I know exactly what Shemar Stewart is. And Shemar Stewart is awesome. He led A&M in pressures. He is a freaking amazing talent. He was a 5-star recruit, and he doesn't play defensive end all the time. He plays 4-eye, he plays inside, and he led them in pressures. He doesn't sack the quarterback as much as he needs to. He needs help, but I think this guy's better than Mikael Williams. And if I could get this guy, I'd be willing to say, here's Robert Beal, here's my next 2 second-round picks, send him on over. What do you think?
Better than Mikael Williams. That's quite the statement right there.
I believe he is. I really believe that. I believed it going in, and I believe it coming out.
Well, look, Chris Kocurek was said to be a huge fan of Shemar Stewart, and John Lynch said something right before the draft. In our defensive scheme, it's really important for defensive ends to set the edge. We've been missing that the last couple of years outside of Nick Bosa. Well, 2 of the best players at defensive end and setting the edge in this draft, Mikael Williams and Shemar Stewart. Shemar Stewart, to me, it's very odd how athletically gifted he is. He earned a perfect 10 on the relative athletic score, yet he only had 1.5 sacks in each of the last 3 years. Now, a lot of that can come down to scheme usage. He's a little bit raw. He doesn't have a deep pass rush bag, and that impacts his ability to win. That's also an issue with Mikael Williams. He is not a refined pass rusher either. And with Shemar Stewart, a freak athlete who, if you get him in this scheme where he has that runway at defensive end, a lot of the talking points and the thoughts that we have on Mikael Williams can be applied to Shemar Stewart as well. And you made an important point. If you trade for TJ Watt, you trade for Trey Hendrickson. Those are older players on the other side of 30 who are going to be looking for more than $30 million per year. Shemar Stewart would be on his rookie contract if you exercise that 5th-year option for the next 5 years at a very affordable rate. Mikael Williams can play defensive end. Shemar Stewart can play defensive end. Mikael Williams can play defensive tackle. Shemar Stewart can play defensive tackle. It would give you 2 of the most athletically gifted defensive ends in this draft class to a point where the Niners would pull off an insane maneuver if they made this move.
And he's perfect for their 4D end alignment, which is what they use on the money down, 3rd down. Do you want to beat the Eagles? You better win on 3rd down. And if you had this guy and Mikael and Huff and Bosa, I look at pass rushers in the NFL like starting pitching in baseball. There is never a point where you have enough.
Yeah.
And if I could add one piece to the puzzle, I wouldn't mind a receiver, but I like Cowing. I like Watkins. I wouldn't mind a safety, but I like some of the guys they got, including Mustafa and Brown. I wouldn't mind a corner, but they got 7 new corners and a lot of young guys, including Darrell Luter, who needs time. I don't want to see the Niners cut another good young corner like Sam Womack and Deshaun Jameson for veteran guys. So I don't want to plug it up with veterans there either. But this guy with this kind of motor and this kind of versatility with Chris Kocurek at this point in history, I'd be willing to make a borderline bad trade to make this happen.
Here's the thing, too. 2026, the Niners have their own 1st, their own 2nd, their own 3rd. They have 3/4. So that's 6 picks inside the first 4 rounds for the 2026 draft. They have their own, they have a compensatory 5th, a 6th, and another 6 in that Jordan Mason trade. So you have a lot of good draft capital. Are you willing to give up a first next year for a first of the
Probably
Bengals
not.
this
Probably
year?
not. I don't know if I'd want to give a 1, but if I could give a package of picks and a player or 2 that wasn't a 1, I think I would do it. The 1 maybe not. How about a 2 and a 2, a player, and a 27, either 2 or 3, kind of to be determined based on what he does.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, he's a malcontent with Cincinnati. Sign the contract."
No, he's not.
This is the Cincinnati Bengals being a dog shit organization that is historically cheap. Shemar Stewart has said that players in the Bengals locker room have told him he's doing the right thing. If any of you are unfamiliar with what's going on, the Bengals took him 17th overall out of Texas A&M. He didn't partake in rookie minicamp, OTAs. Then he left mandatory minicamp because the Bengals are trying to put certain clauses in his contract that don't exist for other players. And what's crazy about this, the Bengals already know what the financials are going to be for this deal. It's already set in stone given the draft slot where he was drafted. But they're trying to add these clauses in there that other teams don't add, and it makes no sense. And they're just trying to win this argument and debate. And so Shemar Stewart had a weird interview in his locker room where he's like, yeah, the Bengals are just trying to win arguments. The Bengals are being cheap. The veterans.
Didn't you think it was weird that he was there? Didn't you think it was weird that he was there? I mean, the Bengals allowed this guy to hold court in their locker room,
that is
ripping
weird.
Their team. I mean, what kind of, do they not have a phone that connects between the front office and the PR staff?
Yeah,
I mean, why would you allow a player to hold court to rip your GM and your owner? And I mean, it's like the Niners, Corey Rush would never allow some discontented linemen to sit there and just rip Shanahan and Lynch to death in the locker room. What?
And this
is crazy.
After they moved off their DC and Lou Anarumo. They've lost a lot of marquee defensive players. They just cut Jermaine Pratt, who led the team in tackles last year, and they haven't paid Trey Hendrickson. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm not worried about the person that is Shemar Stewart. This is more of a case of the Bengals just being a shit show.
Yeah. Well, and, Shemar Stewart just wants a contract that everybody else got. Yeah. I mean, Amarius Mims was drafted by the Bengals and in the first round, and he didn't get this default clause that can void all this guaranteed money in the future. Yeah. So why the heck should Shemar Stewart have some default clause that wipes out guaranteed money? Anyway, I personally, I think there's a lot of 49er fans that think that this guy's just not very good. And I think they're wrong. I think he's really, really good. And this is the kind of piece that if I could get him, I'd make that move.